Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday, the official podcast of Black Fawn Distribution, broadcasting live across the planet and retransmitted on all major streaming platforms. Tonight's program is brought to you in part by Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course Canada's #1 genre film company, Black Fawn Distribution. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't make it, so here's what you get.
It's really not that bad.
You are going down. Here's your host, Benner from Black Fawn Distro.
Hey, welcome back. And this is another edition of Takeover Tuesday. Of course, this is our special edition of another Hotstove from Hell. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, my partner in crime, the person I conned into doing this whole thing with, Kells McNell's a tiny top hat tonight, which is your title. Welcome back. Thanks you for coming. This is this is episode number 44.
Yeah.
So this is your 4th episode, which is actually pretty awesome. So yeah, thanks, buddy.
I made it.
Amazing.
Tiny top hat and all.
Yeah. I'm really pumped because we've been waiting a long time to do this one, which is our Hotstove from Hell on the Terrifier franchise. And of course, some people will say, well, listen, is it really a franchise of only two movies? Well, hey, listen, we're going to get to that. But we really do feel it's worthy of Hotstove. We've got some really, really cool guests coming on. They're going to be here with us shortly. I can throw up a little banner here just to let everyone know sort of who's coming up. But essentially, we are live and we're broadcasting live to Facebook. What are we doing? Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Of course, if you are tuning in, if you got any comments or if you want to want a guest talking about something or you have a question for one of our guests, please leave it in the comment section below on whatever platform you're tuning in on right now, and we will get to it as soon as we can. If we can contribute it or include it as part of the broadcast, we will. And of course, that question will live on in infamy and forever on all the our rebroadcasts and retransmissions to all the major social media or all the major Spotify. What am I trying to say, Kelly? I'm trying to say
Apple Podcasts.
Yes, the podcast platforms, which include Spotify and Apple and whatever else. So, you know what? I'm just pumped. I'm just really excited to do this. Where do you want to start? What should we talk about first? We've got to get our guests in here for sure, but is there anything?
Well, I think it is important to remember to follow, share, and subscribe whenever you can. We do appreciate the support, and hopefully, we can continue to do this and keep doing this. If people are enjoying it, then that's great. We are glad you're enjoying it, and we hope you continue to do so.
Right. And I think we said this in the last episode too, where, we're almost at 500 subscribers on YouTube. We definitely need to get to 1,000 if we can. We want to try and monetize the channel, which will be pretty cool. And just so you guys know out there, myself and Kells have other jobs, but we'd like to do this full time. So, hey, you know what? If you contribute and subscribe, when we're big, famous podcast hosts, you can look back and say, I was there in the beginning.
I helped.
Anyway. Now, listen, due to time constraints, we usually do our fresh kills, new thrills, but we actually don't do that on the Hotstove from Hells because we have too much to talk about and we have guests and we don't want to keep them waiting. So we actually don't do those segments on these shows, but have no fear. We will be back to our regularly scheduled format the next show when we have an interview on the podcast. So before we get going, though, there is one thing we do want to plug shamelessly because that's how we roll here. And that is our 90s Night new podcast episode. I'm throwing it up on the screen. Myself and Kells decided to get together and do a sort of a retro review show. Some of our favorite titles that we remember from the 90s. And of course, we both love American Psycho, and that's what we decided to do our first episode on. Now, American Psycho did come out in early 2000, and why did we do it as part of 90s Night? You'll have to go watch the episode exclusively on YouTube to find out. So it's not on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. You have to go to our YouTube channel. Please check it out. It's actually really, really cool. And we're going to have actually a giveaway that's going to tie into this a little later on in the podcast. So anyway, that's what we got for 90s Night. So make sure you check that out. And of course, we've got a great group of guests here. We actually have 2 guests, which we announced obviously before the show, and we have a special guest, which we haven't announced yet. We have never met him.
I do also want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors as well.
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm wearing a Twisted Tees right now. So I'm wearing one of our sponsors, Twisted Tees. We've also got Deadly Grounds, and we've got Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, of course. These are my backup drinks that I have on standby. But you know what? Listen, those, like I said, those are backup drinks because we actually have a creepy cocktail, and we'll throw it up on the screen here. Kells, take it away. What do we got tonight?
Absolutely. So tonight we have a very special creepy cocktail called Tears of a Clown. This one is inspired by specifically that really pastel massacre scene in Terrifier 2. So I've already had quite a bit of mine. I'm going to make another one shortly. But what it includes is a playful mix of blood red sourpuss, vodka, because we put that shit in everything, lemonade to throw some salt on that wound, and cherry bubbly to soften the blow. So it's a lovely combination of flavors, a little bit of sweet, mostly sour, because I feel like when you're being massacred in a bedroom by a very diabolical clown, you should feel it.
Right. And of course, listen, if you have those ingredients at home, that's amazing. You have an awesome bar wherever you live. However, if you don't, you just try and make this drink. The deal that me and Kells made is that Kells said, listen, I will have the ingredients. I'm going to make the drink because that's how I do. I mean, if you've ever seen Creepy Cocktails, that's what she does. But if you don't have it like myself, and you're a little bit more disorganized than Kells, you have to make it in a mug of whatever you have in the fridge. So I actually took this and I made something that is somewhat similar.
It's an approximation. Really.
Yeah. It's an approximation of whatever I had, but there is vodka because we always have that kicking around. And again, like you said, we put that shit in everything. So, so not too bad. I wish I had the sourpuss though. I don't have the sourpuss.
I had a little bit left so that I really wanted to also create this cocktail to just get rid of the sourpuss. It's been in my liquor cabinet for a while, just waiting for the right cocktail to come along. And I felt like this was the perfect cocktail for some blood red sourpuss. So
awesome. Well, listen, we're going to leave this up on the screen just for a second. If you need the ingredients, let us know and we will throw it back up on the screen during the broadcast. But let's stop. No more fucking around, right? Let's get to this stuff, right? Because we got a lot of stuff to talk about, both Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2, as well as the newly announced news from Terrifier 3 that dropped this week, which is pretty exciting. And of course, this is all leading up to Niagara Falls Comic-Con, which is actually this weekend. It's going to feature a Terrifier reunion, which is pretty cool. And if you have never checked out that Comic-Con, it's definitely worth doing. It's part of the Falls Horror Fest, which is the horror section inside Niagara Falls Comic-Con, and it's happening this weekend on June 9th, 10th, and 11th. So
and we'll be there.
And we'll be there too. So, make sure you come say hello, and we'll go from there, right? So, anyway, listen, we're gonna get back just after this. We figured, hey, before we dive in, let's take a look at Terrifier 1 and 2. We're actually gonna play the trailers just to refresh everyone's memory because they are very, very different films, especially stylistically. And then we're gonna introduce our panel, and we'll jump into the fire and chop it up right after this.
What's wrong?
I'm fine. Why?
Keep looking over your shoulder.
What if that guy did this to your car?
What guy? The clown? You really think someone slashed my tires?
Well, he knows this is your car. He saw us getting into it earlier.
Hey, handsome!
Cut it out.
My friend wants your number.
Kill you.
Look, that guy was harmless. He was just some douchebag in a costume acting like a retard because it's Halloween.
So, did you figure out what you're dressing up as tomorrow?
He wants to dress up as a real guy who murdered 9 people last year.
Oh, you're not doing that.
It's just a costume. You think that guy's still out there?
What's up with you and this clown all of a sudden? You're like obsessed.
They never found his body. What if he decides to come back here?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Wait a minute, aren't you that guy from the costume shop?
Sir, what are you doing?
It wasn't me.
He was covered in blood on his shirt and his hands when he got here.
I'm telling you, it was him, Allie. Right down to the little black dot on the tip of his nose.
You're really weird, you know that?
I believe him.
About what? Something really bad's gonna happen tonight.
No, I know when Jonathan's lying, okay? I could hear it in his voice. Something's wrong.
Look, we're gonna have fun. Stress-free environment.
Yep.
Speaking of surprises, kids, we have a very special guest with us today. All the way from Miles County. Please welcome Art the Clown.
Yes, Terrifier 1 and 2. Okay, welcome back. Those are the 2 trailers for the first 2 films. And without further ado, let's bring in our panel to discuss all of this. And so I'd like to start. Our first guest is a longtime friend of the program and friend of Black Fawn Distro. Of course, talking about Kate Gabriele, who is a proud, dedicated member of Team Troma, of the convention team. We do see her around all the time, which is super, super awesome. And she makes me laugh every time I see her. She's also featured in Terrifier 2 and is one of Art the Clown's victims during the dream sequence. I think that's what it's called, but I'm sure she will correct me, so that's great. We're so happy to have her, and we're looking to get some blood-soaked details from the Terrifier set. Kate, bringing you in right now. Welcome to the hot stove, and thanks for being here. How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. I know you're busy, so I do appreciate you making the time for sure. But I also know you're a huge Terrifier fan and love the series. One of the reasons, and we'll get to that in a second, of why you were actually such a big fan that you're actually in the movie, amongst other things. But obviously, you are you're a long time serving member of Team Troma, welcome to the program. I'm sure you're pumped on this too, but is that what it's called? The dream sequence? Do I have it right there?
Yeah, it is. It is a dream sequence. You could call it also, I guess, the Clown Cafe massacre as well, if you like. Yeah. I don't think it really matters.
A clown cafe, but any other name would smell as sweet. I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't want to smell that trailer. We can get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Our next contestant on the show is an extremely successful artist who keeps up a ridiculous schedule of attending conventions throughout Ontario and creating original pieces of art. He's been responsible for designing a number of magazine covers, as well as the label to the Black Fawn Distro coffee blend, might I add. But hey, not only that, this guy's also worked on Terrifier 2 as a miniature creator and artist, and he's also crafting the original graphic novel for the film. It's Steve McGinnis, everyone. Welcome to the program. Steve, how's it going, man? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. And welcome back, because you were on one of the original episodes that we started when we were doing this just for, shits and giggles, right? But thanks for diving back in. Really appreciate you being on the show, and of course, you have firsthand experience of working on the sequel, which is awesome, and of course, working on the graphic novel or graphic novels. We'll get to that in a bit as well, and man, welcome back to the program. I'm sure you've got a lot to say too, which is great, and I'm excited to talk to you. And also, Steve will be also at Niagara Falls Comic-Con this coming weekend. And as you can see in the background, he does have a couple of Terrifier things that I think he's bringing with him. Yeah. I mean, am I not supposed to say that's a secret?
No, that one's been seen before.
Yeah. But if you haven't checked out his artwork, make sure you swing by his booth as part of Falls Horror Fest inside Niagara Falls Comic Con. It's definitely worth the visit. And now we do have a special guest. Going to throw it over to Kells. Kells, our special guest, who we got?
Yes, so I have the utmost pleasure of introducing a friend, a producer, and my fellow iHorror Podcast Network host of the Eye on Horror podcast, Jonathan Correa. He is one of the founders and current executive in charge of production at Sorcery Cinema LLC, where he is producing a documentary on the National Brotherhood of Skiers aiming to spread their message of inclusion in snow sports, and also producing the Don Rickles channel on YouTube, where they are restoring 24 never-before-seen stand-up specials from the legend. He is an avid physical media collector and first-time guest of Takeover Tuesday. So welcome, Correa.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you.
How's it going, bud?
I just find it so funny that you guys have been saying very special guest like it's a mystery. And I'm sure there's people in the audience that are like, did they get Art the Clown to come here? And then this face shows up and they're like, who's this guy? Thank you. That was a very lovely intro.
Hey, you know what? We call that around here. We call that marketing. That's what we call it around here. So, but hey, no. Like, listen. Thanks for joining the program. It's obviously we always look to have 3 guests on. So there's 5 of us yakking. That's one to stop me from talking so much, and B, we just want just a number of different viewpoints on whatever we're talking about. We think it's pretty good to have that kind of discourse, and like, of course, if you're listening out there and catching us live on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, please leave me your comments down below, or leave us your comments down below, or questions you might have for our guests. If there's a topic you want us to cover, as long as it relates to Terrifier or Art the Clown or what we're talking about, we'd love to include it as part of the broadcast. But hey, listen, keep your comments positive, and maybe we'll put them up on the screen. Oh my God, they got John Correa. Our first comment from Brendan Russo. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's jump in right now. I think that the best place to start here is actually just like why we kind of like the films. Now, usually when we do kind of a franchise segment, and we kind of touched on this at the start of the broadcast, was that there's a variety of films, and you can pick your favorite out of 5 or 6 or 7 or more films. But Terrifier only has 2. But I would argue and say that it's probably going to become a franchise. I think we got some news this week, which we'll get into in a little bit, with in relation to Terrifier 3. But we do really feel, myself and Kells felt really strongly about kind of doing this at the start of a franchise as opposed to maybe at the end of it. So instead of ranking them films, because I think they're very, very different films, but let's just talk about like, what does everyone, how do you see both films side by side? What do you like about each one, and what kind of drew you to the franchise when you kind of check them out for the first time?
I will also add as a quick note, technically, although this is the first and second film in kind of the franchise of the series, this is actually the 5th appearance of Art the Clown in filmography. So he had The Ninth Circle, which was a short. They did a short called Terrifier, which obviously kind of led into the Terrifier feature film, and All Hallows Eve, and of course Terrifier leading into Terrifier 2. So knowledge. There we go.
And the first 2 shorts, I believe, are included in All Hallows Eve. I believe that's how they sort of incorporated them and kind of moved forward. Anyway, any first takers? Who wants to go first? Should we put our special guest on the hot stove? Here you go, Correa. Let's go.
I think it was Very Special is the title. No.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I wasn't really looking into watching these films anytime soon until Kelly reached out to me. So I was like, all right, that sounds like a fun challenge, to watch them. So I did watch All Hallows Eve through Terrifier 2. And I really like how they're really improving with each one. Like you see it happening from the All Hallows Eve to Terrifier 2. And it was really Terrifier 2 where it really hit me, where I was like, this is a haunt. This is the film version of a haunt where you're going from scene to scene, and it's just like each scene is like entering another room in a haunt where it jumps out and tries to scare you or gross you out with something. And I think that's pretty fun. I will say it's not my cup of tea. It's not my vibe, but I appreciate seeing, especially with the evolution and it getting bigger, seeing it on screen. That I really appreciate. So the idea that because what was it? My father-in-law actually said that he was worried because he loves the franchise. He was worried that with a bigger budget, the third one's going to lose that spark. I was like, I know, dude. They put it all on the screen, so I just think they're just going to go bigger, which is what you want from a sequel, right? You don't want to stay in the rural area. You want to go bigger. You want to go to Clamp Tower. For my first Gremlins 2 reference.
First of many, I'm sure. Kate, what about yourself? I mean, you're pretty close to this franchise, but obviously not always. But what drew you to it, like originally when you first checked it out? And maybe can you tell us, our audience, a little bit about how you maybe got involved with the film itself?
I mean, it was really the buzz surrounding the first one. I was hearing constantly about this movie, Terrifier, and Catherine Corcoran is in it, and she was in Return to Nukem High 1 and 2, which was really cool because my ex and I had just watched those movies and we really enjoyed her performance. So we said, let's give it a try. I'm not big on clowns. I hate clowns. So I figured if anything was going to scare me, it would be this. And just the practical effects, the fact that there was really no story. It was just so simple. It was just, he was massacring anyone in his way. I thought that was fantastic. I didn't see a bunch of romance in the background and anything. It was just literally murder, which was awesome. In terms of how I got involved with it, that's a bit of a story.
Okay. Should we? Do you want to save that, or you want to do it now?
No,
okay, we'll save it. We'll save it.
Absolutely.
And Steve, what do you think? Like, how did you what drew you to the franchise, and how do you see both films sort of like side by side now that the second one is sort of it's become this big thing now? Yeah. And also, how do you see both films like looking back now?
Wow. It's definitely an evolution. Yeah, I remember seeing the first film. I was up late. It was probably like 2 a.m. I was drawing, and it got to the saw part, the hacksaw part with Catherine. And I literally had to put my pad and pencil down and watch this because I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, are they really doing this? And wow, I love 80s slashers. So art is like right up my alley. And part 2, I had the same worry before it came out. Like, usually when you get more money, it the film I don't know, gets diluted. So, but it didn't. Damien and them knocked it out of the park. They one-ups the hacksaw scene with that bedroom scene.
Yeah, and that's one of the craziest scenes I've seen is the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2. Like, I really do feel it's such a crazy scene that keeps going just a little bit longer than you expect it to, a little bit longer than you want it to, and that's what makes it perfect. Like I'd really like to ask, I think that there's a few examples in film where that's actually like a perfect balance, but there is a thing about leading on a scene too long or waiting on a scene too long, and it just ruins the kind of momentum of it. But I just felt like that scene specifically, and we should preface this by saying spoilers alert if you haven't seen the movies, but we're just assuming that you want to hear a discussion about the films if you're tuning into this, but I should have said that at the top, so I apologize. But anyway, so spoilers alert, we're going to be diving into the details and the plot details and the character details and the outcomes of this both of these movies. So if you haven't seen them, here's your fair warning. But the bedroom scene is like one of the craziest scenes I've seen recently in a film, and not like the most, like not the goriest, but just like, it's gory. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not gory, but I'm just saying like, it was like the one scene where I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, yeah. And I'll tell you, like, I was like, when I was watching these films, Kells, I messaged you and I said, hey, I'm watching Terrifier 2. This is probably about 6 months ago. Right. So I said, I'm watching Terrifier 2. And you texted me back and you said, how far are you into it? I go about like 25 minutes, like Mad Nightmare 4 vibes, man. And you were like 25 minutes. You're like, buckle up, like get ready. Like you don't even know, man. Like you don't even know. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And then I got through the movie and I was like, just sitting there being like, holy shit. Like I haven't seen a movie like that in a long time. and then just like so many thoughts kind of going through my head, like this is a thing. This is going to be a hit. Like I know exactly why people like this movie. I know exactly why people are drawn to it or what they're hearing about it. Don't go and see it. It's too gory. It's too frightening. It's too bloody, which means that everybody goes and sees it.
Sure.
But also just the potential for a franchise and a great character, and taking sort of like a gnarly sort of like really, really low budget first installment and developing it so much more past the realm of I think what a lot of people expected. Kudos to the filmmaking team and everything they've done with the franchise up to this point. And I will say this too. It's like that was at the end of the movie. And then I thought to myself, I was like, wait a second, like, isn't Chris Jericho supposed to be in this movie? Like, did I miss something here? And then like, because I'm a massive wrestling fan, right? Yeah. And I was like, wait, like, no, I would have noticed him. Like, he's a bigger guy. Like, I mean, he wouldn't just be like a background extra, like whatever. And then the secret scene comes on after the credits, and I was just like, Jesus Christ. like this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. So I mean, I thought like John, you had said just referencing like the budget and stuff, and like just a couple of points and interesting points that we had here was that so the budget for Terrifier 1 was $35,000. It grossed a worldwide gross of $76,000, all international box office, believe it or not.
Yeah. All international, no domestic at all. It was just released internationally and made $76,000 worldwide, which is pretty impressive considering it came out of literally nowhere.
Yeah. And then Terrifier 2 was made on a budget of $250,000. Of course, these all numbers in US. And of course, went on to make $15 million of box office. One of the biggest successes, if not the biggest success at the box office of 2022. Yeah. Again, myself on a regular Takeover Tuesday podcast, myself and Kells always make a little room to talk about box office and how horror keeps delivering year in and year out. If the concept is good, if it's original, people will go and see it. And I think that's something that I think a lot of Hollywood's catching on with right now. Having said that, Terrifier 1 is getting a re-released on July 19th, 2023. I believe that's just in the US. I could be wrong. It might be all of North America. And of course they've just released news that they are going to up the budget for Terrifier 3. I'm going to try this out and see if this works, but I'm going to try and throw the clip out here on Terrifier 3. Yeah, here's the news story from Bloody Disgusting. And of course, this news coming out of Cannes, which recently happened. Terrifier 3 is going to be handled coming out in late 2024. That's the expected release date. And of course, director Damien Leone and producer Phil Falcone are returning to oversee the continuation of the franchise. This was originally reported by Deadline, but Deadline did note that the plot is being kept under wraps, but David Howard Thornton is returning as Art the Clown, and Lauren Lavera is returning as Sienna, which is pretty awesome. We'll talk about that in a second. And filming is expected to get underway in December of 2023. Like I said, with a late release in 2024 next year. So really cool news coming out for this franchise. And it really is kind of a testament to sort of independent filmmaking and kind of getting something done. And, you know, the thought of like Kelly, like you said, the Art the Clown character's been around for a long time. They've really spent some time developing it, or developing him. Or it, I guess. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second too. Like, because he might not be human, I guess. But yeah, I mean, just going around the horn here. Like Art the Clown's such a captivating villain. I think that's one of the things that drew us all to the franchise.
Yeah.
Like, what makes him so captivating? It's it reminds us of the 80s. But is there anything else? Like, is it just because it's just kind of 80s-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I can start with this one just to kind of start the table with the spin the bottle going around. I think for me, the hugest thing with Art the Clown is like the physicality of the character, the physicality of the role as done by David Howard Thornton, because he does have a background in mime. And as a former theater nerd and theater kid, that is so integral to the creation of this character. I know he was apparently very active in co-writing the character, working with the character. He met with the director to kind of brainstorm and expand on the kills during COVID when production was shut down. They just kind of got together and they thought about that bedroom scene that we mentioned earlier. And they're kind of like, okay, where can we go with this? How much bigger can we go? What can we do? What can we do? And to me, the bedroom scene is iconic in the way that it reminds me of like a really good dry comedy sketch where like, you think that it's done, and then they keep going and they keep going, and the longer they kind of hold that, not quite, the funnier it gets. Like they just hold that release, and you're like awkwardly, uncomfortably laughing at the end of it, is what it kind of reminds me of, which I love. And the character, I think, is also kind of an opposite to clowns are familiar with, like Pennywise the clown. He's devoid of color. He doesn't talk. He kind of has like this very physical comedian style to him, inspired kind of like by Charlie Chaplin and Freddy Krueger. I'm sure was a huge influence for him as well, and Pennywise as well. But I know that he also mentioned, David Howard Thornton mentioned, that a huge inspiration for him was the character of the Joker.
Yes,
and kind of how that kind of plays through. So to me, I think that the whole character of Art the Clown is, I know previously Terrifier was the first time that David Howard Thornton played the role, but I think that he really demanded that performance. He commanded that performance, and he made it his own in a way that kind of spawned this multi-million-dollar sequel. And I'm really excited to see him continue on the character, because he's really kind of married to it in a certain way. And I'm also very curious to see what he does next. He kind of reminds me of some of those more physical actors that do roles like Javier Bardem that kind of get really, or not Javier Bardem, Javier Botet, sorry, that get really kind of married to those physical roles. And it's so curious to see where he's going to go from here.
There's an older YouTube.
Oh,
there's an older YouTube video. He's really, really good at voices. David is, and there's an older YouTube video that you can look up, and I think it's something like he does 100 voices in 12 minutes or something like that.
Wow!
And he's very much a living cartoon, and that's what art is to me. He's a living cartoon, but just incredibly maniacal and psychotic and evil. And that's what I like so much about him. And he's funny on set too, because he's just always trying to make people laugh, and he's always walking around making goofy, doing goofy dances and doing voices, and and he's fantastic for that. But yeah, that's how I see Art the Clown, is just a psychotic, maniacal walking cartoon.
Which is, but isn't that's all clowns though, right, Kate?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't find them all humorous, so he's probably the only one.
Yeah. I was hoping that maybe like he would remain silent in between takes and just kind of like do everything in that really exaggerated mime that he does, because it's so fascinating, and he does such a great job with it that like I can't imagine what his voice actually sounds like as a person. I'm like, I can only ever see him as this like mime character, which
is anything but quiet on the set.
He's got I really do feel too that like he's starting. I really noticed this in the second film, and I got it in the first film too. Like I got it that like this is why they made this movie, is because or they got the funding for it or whatever, because the character was there, and it was probably something that they obviously they liked, and they thought it would connect with horror fans, which it did. So, but the second one especially was, I don't know if it's just increased familiarity with the character or just the script or whatever they had, but I just felt like this is his now. It's like it's like you said, Kelly. It's kind of married to him in much kind of this, and it was weird too, because we've grew up with all the slashers, and there really isn't like there's two examples maybe of slashers that really kind of the actors sort of took on the role and became that killer, was or became that character, was probably Robert Englund in Freddy and the Nightmare movies, and Kane Hodder. And even Kane Hodder wasn't Jason in all of the Friday the 13th movies. Right. He's only in the kind of the back end ones. But it was special to me when I watched the second one, because I was like, I see this happening in real time. You know what I mean? Like I can't wait for the third one. I can't wait for the fourth one. And we'll get to that in a second, because I think there's more news coming probably shortly. But it just really feels like I'm seeing that in real time, which is super exciting. And I don't know if anyone shares that, but yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I definitely see that. Like the marketability of Art the Clown. Like we've had Jason forever. We've had Michael Myers, Freddy and everything. All of a sudden Art comes in, and like you said, he's like a living cartoon, but he's like a force of nature. Like if he gets his sights on you, you're dead. But we've never seen anything like it,
and it's such an identifiable It's such an identifiable character as well. Like you can have that face on a sticker, and
Yeah.
everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody picks up on that imagery.
Yeah. And how do we like? I mean, is there any other things that kind of add to this sort of growing legacy that he's kind of putting together? Because I remember, like I hadn't seen Terrifier 1 until Terrifier 2 came out, and I didn't really care. I'll be totally honest. Like I was like, I'll get to it. Yeah. But then I kept going to conventions. Steve, this is probably your fault, but but I kept seeing like everyone drawing him, everyone dressed up as him, everyone walking around talking about Terrifier. And then because I never really heard, there wasn't too much going on. I had talked to some other people that had seen it, and some people raved about it. Some people didn't like it. Like it was very much a mixed bag. People were sitting on the fence and just said, yeah, it's good for what it is, but it's not going to blow you away or whatever like that. So I never really kind of got too excited about it. Then Terrifier 2 came out and I said, okay, well, all the buzz around it. Before nobody wanted to touch it. Like the movie was made, they wanted the film to be edited down for length. And the movie is, we'll talk about that in a second too, because the second movie is fairly long. But they did want certain gore edited out of the movie, and of course they didn't want it. The filmmaking team didn't want to do that. They left it in, and of course it had a hard time getting sold, et cetera, et cetera. It was eventually picked up by the Coven, which is a French and US based distributor, which I actually do have their card here, which is called the Coven. They're awesome, and they took a chance on this movie, and it's done like crazy numbers for them, as well as the filmmakers, and of course they're involved in the releases of Terrifier 3 coming up next year, which is pretty impressive as well. But yeah, I mean, I think like it's interesting to me because when I watched the second film, I was just like, okay, like this is huge, because I went and watched the first film before the second one, obviously, and then I was like, this has such a different tone in the second movie. Like it's really well situated between comical and terrifying, and that's no pun intended, but that's really, really hard to capture.
It walks that fine line. Yeah.
John, what was your impression of the film? Like once you what was your experience kind of going through and watching them all back to back to back?
I mean, well, I went in a little out of order. I watched Terrifier 1 and 2, and then I watched All Hallows Eve. So it was really interesting to see, the actor who took over with with the franchise, and then seeing who played him originally, and just like how different. Well, they look different, but just how differently it's played. But yeah, I had same reservations where I was just like, I just hear it's just like a lot of body mutilation, and it's like that's fun for every now and then, but I think I've gotten to that age where I'm like, not all the time, just once in a while. So that first film was definitely that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not my vibe, but you know what? This is hands down delivers on what people who love this, it delivers. And I'm glad that they have that. That's great. And then you're right. The second one, they completely, everything went into the budget. And it wasn't just like the effects or more blood. It was more character development. I really liked how they, because the first one didn't really have much development for especially the female characters. It was just like, oh, this one's drunk and kind of slutty, and this one's drunker and sluttier, and that's their characters.
That's okay.
And that is more than okay. But if you were to do that for every movie, it would get bored very quick. So I'm glad that they built this mythology, built up this character to be the final girl of it, and made her pretty badass. I took a little insult to a character named Jonathan, whose parents were worried about his interest in serial killers. That hit a little too close to home.
That's never a problem. Never a problem.
Yeah, Mom. No, I really appreciated that. It almost felt like with the second one, it was like, all right, we have more budget. And they heard what people were saying with the mix. They're like, all right, cool. We're going to develop the characters a bit more. We're going to lean more into the comedy bits. The gore scenes, like especially the bedroom scene, it reminded me a lot of like comedies like I Think You Should Leave, where like the joke happens and then they do a joke and then they stick around and you're like, all right, I'm getting really sick of this bit. And then they start up another thing. Art grabs a different weapon and starts beating him with that. And it's just like, oh, okay, that person's definitely dead now, right? No. Oh, we're still going. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so you go through those cycles of like, I'm over this. All right, I'm back into it.
Yeah. It feels like almost like if a horror movie was written by like Michael Even Black and like David Wayne and like Michael Showalter. Like it's a very like Stella type of humor to it as well. But just like really over the top and a lot more violent. But I feel like that's a really good kind of note to kind of bring into the next question, or just kind of overall conversation of like each film, kind of the pros and cons of them, and kind of, you know, what we kind of feel the director might have picked up on from the first film, might have learned from the second film. Because I personally, true story, saw the first one. Actually, first I saw Terrified, because I got the movies mixed up. They were both on Shudder, and I was like, "Oh, this Spanish film is really excellent." Right. Not the same movie. So then I rewatched Terrifier. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a different movie." And I wasn't completely sold the first time I saw Terrifier, but Terrifier 2, I saw it in cinema, and I was like, "You know what? I approve. I get this." I feel like it's kind of picked up on a lot of the concerns and criticisms from the first, and it's really developed it in a way that has drawn a huge audience and has drawn a huge attention to not just the horror genre, but independent film as well. That like you can make something on this tiny little budget that's going to make millions of dollars and draw in so many viewers to this very specific subset of filmmaking. And really kind of run wild with it. So I'm kind of curious everybody's thoughts on, again, the pros and cons of each film, and kind of how they develop between the two.
What's the goal on that one, Kate? You want to take that one away? Yeah.
I just wanted to mention something. You mentioned something earlier about the character development and everything. Mm-hmm. When I met Damien, he mentioned I think it was in pre-production at the time, Terrifier 2, and he had already decided that art, his lore, I guess, would be touched upon a bit more in the second one. And he told me he had already started writing the third one at the time, and that the third one would have even more lore. So he had already planned that. I guess he had it in his head how much he wanted to reveal. And he likes to keep things very, very, under his little top hat. He doesn't like to reveal too much. I mean, even when I was trying to ask a little bit about part 2, it was very like, oh no, I've got ideas, I've already written it, we're going to learn a little more, but not too much. He doesn't want to. And I was interested to see how part 2 was going to deal with his background. And I like how they touched on, they had the girl character that they introduced, but they didn't really get too into it. I still found like I was looking for more information, but I like that. I don't like
the long game.
I do like that though. That keeps me interested. I don't want everything revealed all at once to me in a franchise.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I want it built upon.
Isn't she the little daughter from the first one though? Remember the lady who had the doll? It's the same name.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be what you gather from that.
Yeah,
it's like little breadcrumbs that
it's little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what he does with the third one, how he actually touches on art more, and where he came from and what his backstory is.
Yeah, I think one of for me, like one of the most interesting things is that like the criticism levied towards each film, like Damien, like the director, really seems to be listening. And I'm not saying he's following that, but I'm saying he's taking that with a grain of salt. And sometimes criticism is constructive, and sometimes it's really good. And so the first movie, like obviously, like when they said, there wasn't that much character development and whatever, you're still making a movie on a shoestring. You've got a script, you go to camera. Sure. Would you want it to be the script to be better? Would you have more time on it? Sure. But sometimes that's not available. Right. And that's not you don't get that luxury. However, having said that, you can tell how much, care was sort of put into the sequel. And one of the things that I think that is interesting is that even if you had cut this movie down, like the runtime is 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'll admit that's probably too long. Like I would have liked that movie to come in at 2 hours. I think it would have clipped along a little bit better. But having said that, I feel like you would have cut the gore a bit. I think like distributors would have requested it to try and get a theatrical release, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But also I think you would have lost like little bits of character development in there between, Sienna and her brother and her mom and stuff like that. Did I think everything needed to be in there? Probably not, but it's tough. It's tough to cut that down to that sort of, consumable length, I guess, which is for, the general public, I guess. But having said that, I did read this interview recently where, Damien had said, listen, I got Terrifier 3. it's going to be like a 3-hour movie, but I'm thinking about cutting it into 2 and making Terrifier 3 and Terrifier 4. And as soon as I heard that, I was just like, these guys are going to make so much fucking money. Like, because as long as Terrifier 3 is solid, like as long as it's good as the second one, right? And who knows if it's going to be that, who knows? But they've set up so much stuff. Like they have set up so many breadcrumbs, or left so many breadcrumbs, but also set up kind of this lore and mythology. Like you guys were saying, like that if it has payoff, I at least want to know what happens. And so they probably have 2 more kicks at the can here to put out 2 really good films that will just become more and more popular as they get released. It's pretty exciting. Like I'm pretty pumped for them because I do feel like they've got their handle on, they've got their finger on the pulse here, and they kind of know what people are going to want and what they expect, but also how to deliver it. And I don't know, I'm really excited for it because I really do feel like I mentioned this before. Like I got like some mad Nightmare vibes, Nightmare 4 vibes. Like I love that.
For sure.
The idea that you're in a dream sequence and like you don't really know what's real. It gives you all sort of creative freedom, all sorts of creative freedom to kind of come up with whatever you want and make this character like just insane and put him in situations where like it's even like it's whatever you want to do. So I'm interested to see how much they're going to do it, or where they're going to go with it, and how much they're going to bend into like the supernatural. I think they're already pretty far down that. I think they're pretty far down that road right now. Like,
Well, I think that I love that about it as well is that Damien Leone, like he does the practical effects. He directs, he writes, he edits. I feel like the editing is the hard part, especially when you've done the practical effects, you've written, you directed. So I feel like that's the tricky part, is trying to like know when to kind of cut it back. Like you said, it is a longer film, but there's so much of it that works so well. And like, I wouldn't want to lose a second of that bedroom scene. It goes on forever. And I love that. There's something about it.
It's the right amount of time. It's like the right amount of
it's
time.
like when she comes back, when the mom comes in and she just, like, you think and then she just looks up and it's like, oh my God, I love it so much. But yeah, Cray, I know that you spend a lot of time on film sets, obviously, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this topic, and like kind of also because I know this is more or less a new kind of franchise for you coming in. What your thoughts are?
Thoughts on? Sorry,
just like between like the 1 and 2, and like the difference between the two.
Oh, I mean, listen, the first one, you know, I have that criticism, and a lot of people have the criticism of the not character development of the people, but that's also, they delivered what they wanted, right? Isn't that was part of the purpose of the first film? Is all right, it's one night, just throw bantha fodder at Art the Clown, and we're gonna stay on it for forever. I mean, the Saw scene alone, which reminded me of a bit from Golden Girls. Which is
me too.
Right? I mean, it always goes back to the girls, but
it has.
I'm not. But I mean, they knew what they wanted. It was a limited budget, so they're like, all right, cool. So we're gonna spend all this time and money giving what we want to do, giving what people want, which is going for it. And that Saw scene is exemplary of that. I mean, they really went for it, and I was a little confused with the second one because I went, wait, was there much supernatural in that first one? I know Art didn't go down a lot. There were many times where he should have gone down, but he didn't. And once I kind of got over that, I was just like, no, we're super supernatural now. Just go with it. It was awesome. That little girl was creepy as fuck. Yeah. And I love the expansion of it. And you're right. I like that they're leaving the breadcrumbs for Art, because one of the best things about monsters is when you know just what you need to know to get things going. Because when you explain too much, it kind of loses that Freddy Krueger is terrifying in the first movie, and all you know is he was a child molester who got killed, and now he's back. Why is he back? That's existential terror. And then, like, by the time you get to the Freddy's dead, it's like, oh, well, it's because his mother was, like, you know, in the insane asylum, a bastard of 1,000 bastards.
Maniacs.
There we go. Yeah. And then there's also the dream.
I know someone would know that
and,
on here. Yeah.
And there's dream worms and like all this other, and it's just, if you explain too much, it kind of loses that mysticism. So I really do like that with Terrifier 2. They dive into it a bit more. I don't know who the fuck that little girl is. Like, she's terrifying. And there's clearly part of a bigger picture. And you got me. I want to know more. I want to know about the head at the end. I want to
like,
know. Also, I just want to.
Sorry, go ahead, Korea.
Oh, I just want to bring back. I was so pumped because I didn't know just Chris Jericho was in the second one until the movie started, and his name pops up at the very beginning. I went, "Oh, Chris Jericho's in this. That's cool." And like the movie ended, I was like, "Okay, cool." And like the credits are going, and I'm like, I'm messing around with my phone or whatever, trying to get my thoughts together. And all of a sudden, the scene starts up, and I went, "Oh, that's right, Chris Jericho's supposed to be."
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said. I totally forgot he was in it. Yeah. Yeah,
it's magical.
What's cool about it too is that when so obviously I watched the second one, or I watched the first one knowing the second one already existed. So at the end of the first one was actually the ending was a little bit of a surprise for me too, because I was just like, well, wait a second, like, okay, so wait, how are they going to bring him back? Because I didn't really get any supernatural vibes in the first one either, right? Like I just felt like he was just like not really like a little bit in that horror-esque kind of a way, but not like, oh shit, this is like a supernatural type of thing. And then so I watched the second one. I love the opening sequence, like when he puts his eyeball back in. I was like, okay, so they just literally went like balls to the wall. Like this is amazing. Yeah. And there's that sequence, or sorry, that shot where he's walking out of the alleyway, and it's the silhouette of Art carrying the bag, and I was like, oh my god, that's like so iconic already.
Yeah,
like you've got like, and then I was already into the film. There's so many little things, like when he's wearing the sunglasses in the party store. That's another sequence where I was just like, God, this is like
iconic,
because it's iconic. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense while you're watching it for the first time, because you're like, but you just have to buy in and say, okay, so this is actually they're going for broke here in the supernatural elements, which can backfire. Like it really can. You're playing with stuff that can be, if it's not done right, can be kind of hokey and kind of like, and kind of like, well, you've ruined what made the first one like even remotely interesting. They didn't do that here. They really pulled it off, and then they kept going and going and going. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if anybody can answer this on the panel, or maybe we'll have to ask. Maybe this might be a question we might try and find out at Niagara Falls Comic-Con, Kells. But like, I want to know if that last scene with Jericho, like the hidden scene, they put the post-credit scene, was filmed after they finished the movie. Like, I wonder if that was like where they were like, hey, we've got some extra buckets of bloodline around. I feel like we can shoot this one scene that's so insane that I was like, because it really
Jericho.
Because a lot of those scenes, usually when everyone watches a post-credit scene in like a Marvel movie or whatever, and they go, okay, great, yeah, watch the next movie, I get it. But this one was, I was like, that's like one of the craziest scenes in the entire film after you've watched almost 2.5 hours of it, right? So
I think one of the things that I love about between the first one and the second one is the first one has a lot of moments, like the ending reminds me of Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. The whole bit with the characters in the meeting like reminds me of Marion Crane in Psycho, how there's that kind of like you don't really know who you're following. There's a very obvious scene that reminds me of Bone Tomahawk in a really big way. But Terrifier 2, like watching it, there was no moments it was like, oh yeah, this is just like that. It was just, everything was just completely original. There was no moments that it was like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a little nod to that. Everything was completely fresh, completely new, and completely bonkers. And that's one of the things I really appreciated about that movie, I think.
Well, they had the budget they wanted. I mean, that was why the Indiegogo was so important to Damien, because he really knew what he wanted to do in terms of the gore and in terms of the actors and the sets and everything that he wanted. And he also, it's important to have your options with distribution and with merchandising. And, he wanted to do this his way. You know what I mean? He wanted to be able to have control over all of that. And I remember even asking him, is this going to just be streaming, or are you going to be in the theaters? And he said, I don't know. He said, I'd love to be in the theater, but it has to work out. This is his baby. He wasn't willing to just give that away. And, he also knows how much the fans, how much they care about the movies and art. And he really, he kept talking about really wanting to make something for the fans, and again, that's why the Indiegogo was so important for him to do, because he was able to get the budget to do what he wanted, to make his ideas come to life, and also to give something back to the fans who contributed to the Indiegogo, which I thought was really awesome.
And I think he did kind of, he kind of did benefit from like, you know, I hate saying this, but like, I think the pandemic, you know, obviously it would have hindered the production. It would have caused a crazy amount of stress. So, but that aside, I'm wondering if it's the extra time sort of allowed him to kind of just facilitate a couple things. Cause I've heard
some
that he
breathing
spent
room.
a lot more time on some of the gags and some of the, and just some of the shooting sequences based on the fact that they had a little bit more time to breathe. Sometimes these productions are so go, because once you have to shoot another day or two, you're over budget, you got to pay for this, that, and the other. And so it's interesting I wonder if that, speaking of how the franchise will sort of grow, I'm glad that they kind of have the extra money on Terrifier 3. I think it'll end up all on the screen. I'm pretty sure. But also as well, like when I watched Terrifier 2, I was just like, there's no way this is a $250,000 movie. Like, it doesn't look like it at all.
Looks
it looks
incredible.
like $1 million film.
Yeah.
It looks like a $10 million film, to be honest, with the amount of animatronics in it and blood work and
Who
so,
taught
I mean, I
him?
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, if you're not calling this guy, every major studio should be calling this guy and say, can you make a $50 million movie with like $20 million bucks? Like,
yeah, no kidding.
I think that's coming. I think he just needs to see this sort of like see this through. And I appreciate that for sure. I mean, that, like Kate, you said, it's his baby. He's got something here that's going to be like massive. He's going to own it forever, which is great. But I'm also excited to see what he does kind of post Terrifier as well, just to see.
Me too. He's a huge horror fan. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. I think he's the only one that does Art's makeup as well. I don't think anyone else does his makeup
I
ever.
love that. It's like, you know what? He's got his own. I like that. That's really sweet.
That's so sweet.
It's so precious.
like genuinely, like hearing
it's like
him
his
like do the
indie.
indie.
Absolutely.
We do just want to get to a couple of we got a pretty solid audience tonight, and but a couple of just quick chime in from Phil Pattison. Art the Clown is definitely here to stay. Butt kiss, which I didn't understand why he said that at the end, but shout out to Phil when he said Art the Clown actually appears on an episode of Pete Davidson's show.
They were posting about that. Yeah.
Well, now I have to watch Butt Kiss,
which is pretty awesome. Shout out to Phil. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Phil.
You got let me see. Yeah, I think you just put this one. Yep, just from Brian here saying Stevie Boy, terrifyingly amazing artist. Awesome. Thanks, and I think that's let me see here. Oh, we got this one too from John Connor, apparently from Terminator. John O'Connor, sorry, John O'Connor. We don't know where this came from. It looks like it came from YouTube, but I think these are supposed to be emojis, but it says face red heart shape, face turquoise drinking coffee. So whatever that means, John, thanks again for your comment. But I was like, I wish I could send emojis like that. So like I could just type in the emojis.
That it's just him typing this, not even sending emojis. He's just like typing these words frantically.
Oh, I hope so.
That's my dream.
Dude, if that's what he's doing, he can come on the show. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Sure.
A quick question. We got a question here for the panel. So longtime audience member John McIsaac says, "What's everyone's favorite Terrifier kill scene?" Great question, John. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go around the horn. Steve, you've been quiet over there for a little bit. I think your favorite scene is probably the hacksaw scene, but
I love
if it is, do you have a
hacksaw
secondary
scene.
one?
Second one, I love the laundry room scene in Terrifier 2 when he meets the little girl and then like spears the guy at the end with the broken mop and everything like that. I love that. Like when he leaves and you see he's like speared with it. I like that.
Awesome. Kate, do you have a favorite? Well, I mean, you might be a bit biased on this one. Yeah.
Perfect. Correa?
I mean, it's mostly because it reminded me of Golden Girls. It's the hacksaw scene, you know. I mean, I got Blanche tattooed on my forearm, so I gotta have to go with it. Yeah.
Gotta represent.
It's so iconic, and it just goes on for so long. Like it was one of those points where I was just like, man, my arthritis would be killing me if I was hacksawing people vertically.
Tunnel.
Yeah, that's why
you already knew. Yeah,
way.
you already knew the supernatural elements before that, just because of the
Yeah, that's how you knew. That's how they gave you those
need.
hints early. Is like, there's no way he could do this if he was actually in his 30s.
Right. And no way
Got
she
some
would be
steroid
alive.
injections. Come on.
Yeah.
Corticosteroids are
Some
magical.
cortisol.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a basic bitch and say that my favorite is the bedroom scene, because again, it goes on for so long that I just I was completely just shook and shocked and delighted. I just
Yeah,
loved it.
I'm gonna have to go. Well, you know what? Okay, so there's that scene. Just so I'm not. I don't want to be second. I don't want to be like follow up basic. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like second rate basic. That's even worse. But no one's actually. We've actually haven't talked about this yet, and that's a dinner table scene. I think is like one of the best.
The mashed potatoes.
The mashed potatoes, and that was one
Yeah.
of the things where I was just like, gee. I was just like, I watched this movie by myself, and I was like, that was one of the scenes where I was just like. Like I can't remember what I said out loud. Probably I always say Jesus Christ a lot. Like not because I'm religious, just because I just like
because he needs to know.
Jesus Christ, like fuck, like. But I remember watching that being like, and when he takes the potatoes and he's just jamming it into the skull, I was just like, holy fuck! Like, I mean, this is crazy. I think that's why. I might have messaged you there.
That might have been the text point. Yeah, I think you did text me at that point as well. I was like, dude.
I said, "Yo, like you're right. Holy shit!" Like, but
and I said,
yeah,
you're
I think that
welcome.
just and the fact that he's wearing the apron is like, it's like
Of
so
course.
good. Like the words of Kells, chef's kiss, right?
Mwah.
Well, this is a good lead into to another question we actually had just for the panel too. Was like, is there like, I mean, we just talked about our favorite moments, but do you have a favorite weapon or tool that Art uses as well? Like, or is that particular to the scene you like, or is there some other tool that you like that he uses the most? Because he's got a whole arsenal, a whole garbage sack full of them.
A whole garbage sack full.
Which is great, by the way. Like, I love the fact that it's like a,
Just like-
it's like a, it's like a Santa sack, but it's
It
garbage
is.
bag.
It's like a
He's
Santa
a
sack
basic
of
bitch.
Yeah.
Garbage bag. Yeah.
It's a sadistic Santa sack.
For me, it was the in Terrifier 2 when he has the medical devices and utensils like scissors and scalpels tied on a string, and he's just whipping Jonathan with it.
The
the
flail.
DIY flail. I love a good DIY project, so like that really spoke to me. And then when he gets it in the face, that was magic.
It's like rips it off. Yeah, it's so great.
Steve, what do you
David,
got?
I like the flail too. When I was drawing book 1, I included how he made that. David let me in on a little secret.
The hair?
The hair of the flail, like he harvests it from women's severed heads and then makes the rope. And then
where else would it come from?
Nice.
Where else do you get your rope?
Very creative.
Severed heads.
Right at the beginning, I got to draw like these heads in like old vices and like Art like stringing the hair into rope and then like tying the scalpels and the scissors on and everything. I thought that was
Very
pretty cool.
DIY.
Yeah.
So they need to get Art the Clown on 5-minute crafts and be like, make your own flail. First you take the sky, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, I feel like, you know, if they, it's going to be so interesting how the next film does, just because of like, like I have these thoughts of him being on like
Art Attack
or like any sort of cooking show, like the infomercials, like the old school infomercials from the 80s or sorry, from the 90s, where they're like, tell us what you have in the oven, Sam. He's like, well, Barbara, and he like brings like, I mean, I'm like, I envision that happening with like Art the Clown as part of like,
silent
like on there, and
be the next dream sequence.
Like why couldn't you? And also, and why couldn't you do that in real life to like around Halloween to market the film to like, like it's like I wonder how much it's going to catch on and whether or not like general audiences will really kind of buy into it, being like, oh shit, because I think like it kind of reminds me of Saw a bit, like in that, and as well like James Wan, like making movies for super cheap on a very very lean budget, but really kind of getting the most bang for the buck out of it. But I wonder if it's going to be like, I think when I heard the November 2024 release, like for Terrifier 3, I'm automatically thinking that's going to get bumped up a month and it's going to be Halloween.
Must be.
That's just my thought.
Hopefully.
I just feel it just plays
I hope
plays so
so.
well. Sorry. sorry, I got into the weeds. You're supposed to keep me on track here, but like, your
distracted by Art
job,
Attack.
Tiny Top Hat.
I got distracted by Art Attack. I had the idea of like him doing like the big like overhead camera, like just cutting up a bunch of bodies and like forming them into like a flower or something.
That would be awesome.
Right? Marketing, you're welcome. Free ideas.
I will say this. I will say that I love the use of guns in these movies, and I love how like there's the scene where he has the shotgun in the garage where he like blows away the mom, which is very like, and I'm not saying I'm a gun guy or whatever. I just feel it's very unexpected, and it's very much
it's
like
so like
holy like he could do anything. He's got all these weapons, but really like he's still it's like there's a movie I was trying to think of, Steve, maybe you can help me out. It's like an action movie where it's like the bad guys always get the guns, right? They always have these weird weapons and like we need this and that and the other, and like I just feel like he's kind of a character like that's sort of inspired by like those old 80s action movies sometimes.
There like an unwritten rule in the 80s that the slashers didn't use guns. They always had like knives and axes and machetes.
That's what a slasher is.
You break the rules.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't remember anybody using
a gun.
That's why it reminded me of like that scene in Indiana Jones when the guy's doing the whole thing with the sword. He just like pulls out the gun and shoots him. That's what that reminded me of. It's just like it's like not what you expect for him to just like suddenly have a gun out of nowhere. It's like, oh, okay, sure, why not?
I was very surprised to learn I was going to be killed by being shot. It was not what I was expecting at all.
Where's the sword?
Let alone a Tommy gun.
Well, listen, guys. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, 30-second gap, so we can hawk our own wares here at Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. It's how we keep the lights on, how we pay the bills. It's how I keep Kells employed here before she leaves, complaining of like not enough benefits and all that stuff. So, but listen, if you're tuning in, we are broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and to YouTube, and of course, we are retransmitting on all the major podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. So listen, or Apple Podcasts, sorry. If you are listening to us, please include your comments below on whatever platform you're tuning in on. We'll try and get to them throughout the broadcast. We've got a little bit of time left, so we'll try and include them. But also, please, if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers, and then we're trying to get to 1,000, and then after that, we're going to try and get to 1 million. And so me and Kells can quit our day jobs and we just do. Hey, that's how it happens, man. That's how it happens.
The Terrifier budget.
Yeah.
Exactly. All we do now is Terrifier podcast.
Yeah.
That's all we do. But listen, we do have two people, Steve and Kate, who both worked on Terrifier 2 in differing capacities. I want to know how they got involved in the projects, and we'll find out about that just after the break.
Am I allowed to?
No.
Black Fawn Distro. Movies, merchandise, available now at blackfawndistribution.com.
Nice. Also, I am going to say my favorite weapon.
You should know better.
I'm going to say my favorite weapon. I'm going to do it.
Oh, sorry. We didn't get to you?
You cut me off. I was going to say, like,
sorry, that's my
the
fault.
scene in Terrifier 2 in the bathroom when he's got, like, the table leg.
Oh, yeah.
With, like, all the everything
The
drilled
forks
into it.
and-
And he throws the acid in her face first and then just, like, goes ham. That's my favorite weapon. Anyways, as we were saying, continue.
Good.
Okay. Do you want me to play the ad again? We'll have a real cut.
Just to come back in fresh.
Sorry
Clean
about that,
cut.
Kells. That's my fault. I'm
rude.
My apologies. Well, listen, I do want to know, and I think our audience would want to know too, is like, so Kate, and Steve, we'll get to you right after. Walk us through how you got into Terrifier 2 and working on the set and that sort of stuff, and what can you tell us about that, and like, you know, what the experience was like, you know, being directed by Damien, working directly with Art the Clown as well.
Well, I met Damien and David at Shockstock.
Hey, shout out Shockstock.
Yeah, Shockstock. I think it was 2019. It might have been 2018. I can't recall. Met them there, you know, hanging out with them, chatting about Terrifier. And Damien said they were going to do an Indiegogo for part 2. And I said, oh, wow, you know, that that's fantastic. I'd love to, give some money to that. And he said, oh, we're going to have this really special perk where you can die in the movie. And I thought, oh, that's incredible. And my boss is a huge fan of Terrifier. And actually at Shockstock at that convention, I got him a signed photo of art, as like here's something nice for you. And when the Indiegogo went live, I showed it to my boss and said, look at this. They have a perk where you get to get killed in the movie. Wow, isn't that crazy? Look how much it is. Oh. And he said, go get my credit card. I'll buy it for you. Yeah. Yeah, he's such a big fan. He was like, I want to see you in this. And I thought, oh my God,
that's support.
That's insane. So bought the spot. I think they only had 6 spots. I think there were 5 that you could be killed, and then the first one was like the one was ultra gory, where they were going to do something special. So I got a spot, and then just waited until I got the email to say, here's where you're going. Here's when you're going, and here's what you're going to be doing. And even then, I still didn't know very much. I got an email from the costume designer, Olga, and she said, okay, this is a dream sequence. You're going to be waiting for a plane. So just wear something comfortable, bring like a suitcase, and show up in Canajoharie, upstate New York for these days. And that was it. That was all I knew. So I went with my husband at the time, my ex now. So we went, and I remember we had discussed like, well, we can't tell them we're going to go at the border. We can't tell them we're going to go do this because like there's a whole issue where if you go
visa,
they don't know that you've paid for this. They don't know that you're not getting paid to do this, right? So we were like, well, there's lots of hiking trails, so we'll just say we went on a hiking trip. But this is what we're doing because it's this tiny little town in upstate New York, and of course, like the border agent's like, "Where are you going? What is this? What? No, we're gonna go and hike the trails.
We're going hiking, yeah,
it's hiking." So we got to the set, and what the set was they had rented a barn, and they had actually converted it into all kinds of different parts of the set. So there was the clown cafe. There was a couple of bedrooms, one of them being Sienna's bedroom. And then there was sort of, there's a part in the clown cafe scene in the whole dream sequence where there's a nun who's shaking a bell going like, feed this man. And it's all, that was part of the barn too. So it was all these different sets in the one barn. And then there was like a house on the property that a bunch of the cast and crew and stuff were kind of all staying in and stuff. So we got there, and it was great because Damien and David remembered my ex and I from Shockstock, and it was like, oh, hey, hi. Oh yeah. How are you? And, so when we started shooting, I think that Damien liked the idea of having a couple in the movie that were going to die together. So he talked to us and said, how about both of you get in the scene? It'll look really very natural. You're a real couple, and we want, it'd be cool to see you both die together. So we thought, oh my God, that's so great.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think our shoot was only 2 or 3 days. But we stayed the week because, Damien had said like, they're going to be doing the scenes where they light people on fire. And we were like, well, we have to see that, of course. Like we can't miss that. Yeah. But the craziest thing was when we went to film, it was March 2020. And I think 3 days after we got there and started shooting, Trump gave his COVID speech. And the next day we went to the Price Chopper, and there was no toilet paper left on the shelves. And we were like, what's going on here? Like, why is there's a lot of cans missing? So that was when COVID really started getting crazy. And I started getting all these texts from back home going, are you coming home? They're going to close the border. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I'm going to stay.
We're hiking, God damn it.
Yeah. These trails ain't going to hike themselves, dagnabbit.
No, I'm like, I want to see these people get lit on fire. Like, no, I was having a blast. It was amazing. So we stayed as long as we possibly could until it was like, okay, you know what? Our works are messaging us going,
you're going to be
you're
locked
quarantined. You can't come back for 2 weeks. And we're like, okay, I guess we should probably leave and come home.
Amazing.
Oh, it was amazing. It was so much fun. We had the best time.
That's the best way to start quarantine.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I just wanted to throw up this. We did post this on our Instagram this afternoon, but yeah, here is a photo of yourself in art, which I thought, which is actually even cooler to have up now because you said you hate clowns so much. But
I love him though.
you mentioned earlier there was a story about the was it the camper van that's there that he pops out of?
Oh
during the
God,
scene?
yeah. So they bought that. They bought that camper, I guess, from someone online, Kijiji or Craigslist or something, selling one. Painted it, made it look amazing. Except they didn't do anything with the inside of it. So we went in to the camper because we wanted to like get pictures in there and stuff. And there was like a jar of relish that like expired in 1993. And it was filthy, which we thought was hilarious. Oh yeah, no, it was great. No, it added to the charm. It was fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, until they make like whatever, like 5D theaters or whatever where you can smell stuff. I'm always like, I'm always like, I don't know if we need that. I feel like maybe I want to smell like new, like rain and surf, and like I think maybe that might be about it. But
fermented pickles, no.
Yeah. So so Steve, listen, like you worked on this film as well. I mean, we posted this photo too, which I thought was absolutely amazing that we had a comparison shot here. But this is yourself posing with the miniature of the fun house that's at the end of or seen throughout Terrifier 2, but obviously prominently featured in the in the third act in the conclusion of the film. Really, really cool. Like, and I knew this before. I knew going in, and I was like, hot damn, man, that looks so good. Like it's a bit ridiculous, and also that it's and you would explain it to me. I think we were at one of the conventions. I think it might have been Frightmare, where you said, it's a small piece, and it's just situated there and how it's shot. But tell us how. I mean, and we can dive into the graphic novel a little bit as well. But how'd you get involved in all this stuff?
Well, when Terrifier, like the first Terrifier came out, I used to do these. Remember when Walking Dead, Glenn died? Just for a lark, I did a Scooby-Doo crossover of Negan smashing Thelma's head, and it took off. Like the next day, I woke up and looked at my phone. I had it was exploding. So I thought, maybe I'll do these just for a joke and get some people laughing. So I saw Terrifier, and I did the same thing, but I put Daphne in the Saw scene. Mm-hmm. And I guess Damien saw it, and he liked it. And he's like, can we use this at conventions for people to sign and such? I'm like, yeah, sure, man. I sent him the file. And then he kept getting back to me for different art things. I did the re-release, for the Terrifier cover, for the VHS cover. Mm-hmm. And then when Terrifier 2 came around, he would ask me, I was helping with the costume, like the angel costume, did some of the cereal boxes. And then he got a hold of me and he was like, okay, we have this barn with 2 entrances. We can't build an actual fun house, but we have this barn and we want to light it up. What can you do and make a fun house out of this? And I was like, wow. And he gave me the scale of it. I scaled it down and then scaled it to the size that you see me holding. So when they held it up, they could backlight it with the barn and have people going in and out and such. And then I painted it and everything. And then they lit it, and thankfully it worked. So yeah, that's how that happened.
And then you also and you started developing the comic or the graphic novel or comic, or however you want to call it. But I think you're on book 3 now, or
yes, just about to finish up book 3. It's a big one. This one's probably going to be about 90 pages.
Right.
Wow.
And how did that started as well? From did this start during after Terrifier 2, or when did you start?
This happened almost immediately after Terrifier. They liked my art. We got chatting, and then one night I got just a text message from Damien. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do a graphic novel of Terrifier?" And I got back to him like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And then
I'm busy, man. I'm busy.
Yeah.
I gotta do this stupid podcast of Benner.
God, man, leave me alone. And so all of a sudden I said yes, and then the phone rang, and it was him and Phil, and we set it up, and we split it up into 3 books, and the rest is history.
Nice.
And there's the 3 books that covers the what
one.
part of this.
So what I did is, it's about a 2-hour movie, and so what I tried to do is space it out, 1 page per minute, and then space it out, and basically try and give everyone like good thick graphic novels, and leave it off at a good point. And with this one, probably be about 90 pages. This final one,
right?
I'm just about done it.
Awesome, man! Congrats, dude. That's are you gonna have those? Where can people get those? Actually, we should mention that.
Terrifiershop.com.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. They still have a bunch of signed ones that Damien and David signed, and
nice.
I got, as I mentioned before, I got some liberties too. Like David messaged me about that hair thing, so I got to add that in there that they didn't get to add in the movie, and so it was kind of cool.
Very cool. And we did have this as well too. So this was one of your concepts, I think, for one of the cereal boxes. I can't, just correct me if I'm wrong, but this is it?
Wacky Jacks.
Wacky Jacks. Did this end up in the movie? I couldn't remember.
It's so wholesome.
Yeah, that's what they were eating at first, and then it switched over to the Art the Clown one.
Right. Okay, awesome.
The Art
awesome.
Krispies.
So wholesome.
How about that cereal, Kate? Wacky Jacks.
It's horrible. I don't like it.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I think it's like, and what's like, just to pose a question to you guys as well. But like, what is Damien like to work with as far as like creatively? Like, obviously, you're both kind of we're all in the circle, right? Like we're all in the genre space, the horror space, that sort of stuff, the horror part of the horror community. But like, how, like, what was the most, I guess, what was the most interesting thing seeing him work or working with him, I guess?
Interesting.
He gives, you know what? Damien for me is a dream. Basically, I know I want to honor the Terrifier work and I want to follow the story. I'm not going to go like way off and go crazy or anything like that, but he just lets me run. And it's great. Like I'll follow the work. I'll change the points of view and everything, so it'll flow a little smoother to comic book from movie. But he just lets me go. Like I said, awesome. Like with the Funhouse, we, I just said, hey, do you want me to do this? You want a Grim Reaper? And he's like, yeah, just go. Mm-hmm. And the guy's a dream to work with.
Awesome. Kate?
Yeah. No, he was really easy to work with. He gets so little sleep. I mean, it's pretty incredible. We were out sometimes till 2-3 in the morning, and he'd be up again at 7, for the next day. It's crazy.
He's a vampire. No.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. No, he like you said, Stevie's very easy. I mean, he knows what he wants. He I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but I was not nervous at all. I was very comfortable. I'd never done anything like this before, but it's just very like, okay, this is what we're doing, and go. And he just puts you at ease. The whole cast and crew really did too. Like the Fuzz on the Lens guys, they're all fantastic. They all, again, they know what they want. They have their vision. I didn't need to ask for much direction on anything. It's just like, you're going to die. You're going to do this. Here you go. And most people might be like a little intimidated by that, but I wasn't. I was very at ease. It was wonderful. It was great. And the practical effects were really cool because I had so many people ask me, oh, did he use squibs? And I said, no, he actually did not use squibs. They cut holes in our costumes and sat behind us with plastic tubing with blood in their mouths.
No way.
And when it was boom, 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 it was
that's so cool.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. You wouldn't.
I think that practical effect.
Fantastic. Like never would have expected it.
That's amazing.
So surprises like that. He just, again, he knew exactly the effect he wanted. He knew how to get it, and it was odd. I mean, standing there with plastic tubing all through my sweater and all, but I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. I feel good about this. I'm ready.
Trust the process. Trust the process.
Absolutely, I totally did. Yeah,
Well,
fantastic.
listen, I do feel terrible because I came to this podcast ill prepared with a whole, you know, I didn't come with any Golden Girls questions for Korea there down at the bottom. So, and he's been silent down there for a while and being patient enough to get through these stories. So I want to get him involved in the conversation again. But
no. You're good. If you have Muppet questions, I'll answer Muppet questions.
I can throw to the audience and get a couple questions in from there.
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's
so the first one, hi, Waylon. Hello. We love you, Waylon.
Hi, Waylon.
Hello. Waylon just saying, look at all these cool people because Waylon is delightful. Hi, Waylon. You're delightful.
Oh, thanks, Waylon.
The next one I want to highlight is, I think, an excellent question that we should all answer. What other horror movie icon would you want to see Art go up against a la Freddy v. Jason?
Ooh, good question.
I'm going to start with, again, a very basic answer, but I feel like it's fun for different reasons. I would love to see him go up against Pennywise because I feel like just the dichotomy between the two would be really interesting cinematically. And they can both kind of just do whatever they want just because they have that vague supernatural tinge to them. So I feel like that would be a really entertaining tete-a-tete.
Are you talking Tim Curry, Pennywise? Are you talking Bill Skarsgård?
Tim Curry. Tim Curry.
Oh, really?
100%.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
I would have gone with Bill.
I mean, I love Bill. But I feel like there's something about the Tim Curry that like would have just gone well with that type of energy. I feel like they would match energies well, you know?
Yeah, man. Just like imagine the marketing you could do for that, like clown versus clown.
My God.
Like
Clown v. Clown. 2024.
I'm going to give a ridiculous answer.
Yes.
Which is going to be Pinhead. Because
oh fuck yeah. No, I'd buy that. Yeah.
Right? A very serious, you know, loves to talk and you know and say all kinds of crazy, and then you've got Art who's a goofball and says nothing.
Yeah, you got like
and it reminds me of Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, it's like the pontification versus like the goofy silent type.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that going well.
And for those, and also Doug Bradley is going to be at is part of Falls Horror Fest at Niagara Falls Comic Con, and Art's there too.
So we can make this happen. Is what we're saying.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Sounds like
I'm just saying. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what needs to happen at these fucking conventions. Sometimes, like, I feel like people just need to be like, you need to do a face to face. Like, you guys need to get up there, just do a face to face. Everyone takes photos, like a press conference, like a boxing UFC press conference, and then they just go their separate ways, and you never see them again. And they should do that.
They don't even so do anything. Just have them stand there for like 5 minutes and be like, all right,
nose to nose.
Turn around.
I don't know if you could get Doug Bradley in full makeup, but
it would take a long time.
I love Doug Bradley, by the way. He was he's one of the funniest people I've met, like when I met him, but like because he's just he's so dry, right? So you never know if he's mad or making a joke. Like he's a funny dude, but but yeah, I mean I think that's a great idea.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, Steve Correa, what you got?
Ooh, I was thinking of something along the lines of the Crooked Man and him. Have like a creepy body language thing, you know, like you have that freaky Crooked Man, and then you have Art.
Yes,
he's moving this way and he's moving that
they're
way.
Both kind of
very physical, a very physical fight. The very
actual
physical
body
fight
horror.
where they're not actually touching each other. They're just like making motions at each other awkwardly,
making us all uncomfortable. Like,
it's a fight for the audience. Really.
Just 90 minutes of like people like
just coughing and just like cracking. And, I would still watch that. That would be weirdly satisfying. Like when you watch those chiropractic videos.
Oh yes,
Just saying. Cray, what you got?
Well, I mean, you want to match them if it's going to be a Freddy versus Jason scenario. You need if Art's the Freddy, you need a Jason, and a modern version of that. I would think someone like Victor Crowley from the Hatchet series would fit that role pretty well. And it's kind of keeping it with the last 20 years type franchise. So, and I think that would just be funny, them hacking into each other and not doing a whole lot.
Yeah, but like really creative weaponry at the same time. For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Plus, both franchises love showing intestines, so I think they'll get along very well.
They would just like, they'd start fighting. They'd be like, you know what? I like your style. And then they just become fast friends and then problem solve.
I could see that. They team up.
That could happen.
Just hug it out at the end.
I mean, I've got this excellent comment here that I like. I would want to see this one too. To love to see Art the Clown versus Cabin in the Woods stoner type.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he just like
deep
really
cut,
there
too.
making the faces, and then the stoner just be like, "Yeah, man, that's great."
Whoa, creepy clown, man.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods is, I think, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. As far as like,
It's
I remember I
fantastic.
watched that and I came out of the theater and I was like, "That's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen." Just
That was
because
the
it's
happiest
so,
I've been in theaters for a long time. Yeah,
yeah, just
That
batshit
is.
crazy. So
Yeah.
actually, you could put Art the Clown like against a lot of people in that movie.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mermaid,
Merman.
merman.
Art's like the one creature that's not actually trying to kill people. He's trying to kill the other creatures because he's like, oh, this is more fun.
Yeah.
I want to kill a merman.
Yeah.
People are running away. Meanwhile, he's just like stalking through, just like with his flail, and I'd watch that. I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gals, who you got? Who you got for this?
I said mine already, man.
What?
Pennywise.
Oh, Pennywise. Yeah. Okay.
Dude.
So it's just me.
Who's yours?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I just wanted to make. I forgot about that. Okay, anyway, so I just wanted to make sure I got to you because last time we cut you off.
Because last time you forgot.
Hey, can I just see? I was like, nope.
Nope. Button.
You should have said, wait, and I would have
You're like,
waited. But like,
Button.
it's like when you get off the telephone, like,
You're like,
telephone. Fucking, I'm 80 years old. The old telephone. Look, if you get off the phone and you're just like, when you know, like you forget to tell somebody something, and then like,
wait.
but they've already taken the phone down from their ear,
You're
and
like,
they're
"It's
like,
too late."
wait, and they hang up on you, and then you have to call them back. And it's,
We've gone too far. Yeah.
that's where me and Kells are. Sorry, guys. You have to see all this. It's I know. Anyway, so listen.
Did you say
yeah,
yours,
I think.
Gunnar?
What's that?
Did you say who's your pick?
Yeah, can I say my? Can I get to
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're waiting.
So my pick, I think. So I'm gonna go. So okay. I feel the thing that makes the most sense is Freddy, but that's a bit of a cop out because he's already got Freddy versus Jason. But it would be kind of cool to see the dream sequence versus dream sequence and figure out which dream sequence you're in. I mean, if they put like $200 million behind it, like it would be absolutely phenomenal. But let's say that's probably not going to happen. I'm probably going to go old school and say Michael Myers.
Strong silent type versus strong silent type.
Versus goofy silent type. But I also feel like, and there's a reason I'm going to say this, and it might be controversial, but I don't care. Is that I really do feel like when I watched Terrifier 2, I was like, the last two Halloween sequels, I was like, that's how you make a sequel. Like, this is how you do it. Like, why can't you make the Halloween sequels like this? I thought the first remake was great. Or the first, whatever you want to call it, reboot or
Requel?
whatever. I thought it was great.
Requel.
The last requel or yeah, I don't know.
I'll say requel.
Now. Like,
That's
I
what
have
the
to-
I
kids
like
call
that
it.
word.
yeah, we got to wait
like
for
that.
Scream 7 to come out to figure out exactly what it's called. But like, yeah, the like I felt like they kind of botched that entire good thing that they had going in Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So I think it would be cool to bring Michael Myers back, and you could have Michael Myers versus Art in some sort of like face off, which I think would be like really, really cool because it would be like kind of like first slasher versus like the oldest slasher versus the newest slasher.
Passing the
You know
torch.
what? Yeah, pass the
Yeah.
torch.
I
like
could
that.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we've got another vote for Merman. So,
So the winner by default is
Merman.
Is the Merman.
Merman. It's Merman. Merman.
Merman.
Is it Merman or is it Merman?
Merman.
I like Merman better.
Mermanator.
Yeah.
Mermaid.
I was in the theater, and when he goes, when the merman crawls out of like the smoke, like, and he's coming for the one guy in Cabin in the Woods, and he goes, Merman. I laughed so hard in the theater, like I was like laughing out loud, like I was like that guy that has like
Perfection.
That's- whatever.
That's like that shot in Freaks when you see the guy with no limbs coming out with the knife in his mouth, and it's like, what are you gonna do? Like you look intimidating, but what? How are you gonna contribute to this slaughter?
Yeah. what's the part you're playing here?
I love how like and also too, I just have to throw this up again too because it's like this is probably one of the best comments I've seen. I'd love to see him versus Cabin in the Woods Stoner.
100%.
Like that's the fucking movie that they're promoting, right? They're like Art the Clown versus Cabin in the Woods Stoner.
Terrifier 4.
Terrifier 4.
When he splits 3 into 2.
Christ, man. I hope don't tell them that we did this podcast. They're gonna watch this and be like, who are these idiots from Canada? Oh shit, they're at this con, man. Do we have to hide? Tell them we're not here, please.
You need to take that comment and apply it to every film franchise that you're talking about from here out. Just like, so we're talking about, Insidious. Yeah, let's have Insidious versus the stoner from Cabin in the Woods.
It works on any level.
He knows all the rules. He knows.
The rules are out the window. Okay, well, listen. Like I think we could probably on the verge of wrapping it up soon. But we still have a few minutes left. I think we can. I think we can burn a few more minutes, right? Because I do want to get to this because I feel it's like, I feel it's kind of important. And just to wrap things up as well, I think it's a good note on. But like, what do we like? Where do you guys see like this franchise going? And we talked a little bit about the increased budgets. Like, is it going to help or hinder it? I think we're pretty all on the same page where it's like it's probably going to free up some time for Damien to do some shit, right? Which is great because I think I think you can only make so many of these movies burning the candle at both ends before it kind of burns you out. So I'm happy for him for that for sure because I think it will. I think it'll help him out on just like a personal and professional level. But like overall, the franchise, like, is this a trilogy? I think there's going to be 4 films as far as what I've heard. Is there more than that? And does this film series run the risk of burning out itself in much the same way as like Halloween did, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street all had problems with that. Actually, every horror franchise I think has had problems with that. Some don't even. I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite horror movie of all time. And yet that franchise has something like, I don't know, it has something like 37 installments on it and it still doesn't have a cohesive narrative. And same with like Pinhead. Like I love like a Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. I love those movies so much. And then past that, it's just been, I haven't seen the new one. Admittedly, I haven't seen the new one. So
really, but you have to see that new one.
I'm interested to
very,
very interested to see it because I thought they did some really cool stuff. Like they made some really interesting.
I personally love the new one. The new one was probably closer to the books.
Yeah, really.
Okay. I appreciated that about it.
Okay, it's on my list, guys, for sure. I'll because I love. Like, the thing is, it's not on. It's you can't get it in Canada. I don't think. Right? It's not on.
It's on Hulu, so not in Canada.
Yeah,
basically.
So
Thanks, Canada.
Shit out of luck. Super helpful, Kells. Thank you for that. But
I'm here to provide the facts, Benner.
Can you believe that? I convinced her to do it. I was like, I called Kells. I was like, hey, do you want to co-host a show with me? She's like, really? Yeah, for sure. I was like, wow, really?
I'm just here to provide the facts.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just roasted every show. I feel like, but in all seriousness, like we'd be remiss if we didn't actually mention this too. But Terrifier 2 just actually got popped up on Tubi as well.
Yes.
So anyone listening, if you want to check out movies, Terrifier 1 and 2 and All Hallows Eve, which I guess is kind of the prequel, but like they're all available on Tubi for free. So make sure you check it out. Go to Tubi and watch those films. They're definitely worth the watch. But let's talk about let's just get back to like the franchise itself. Like, what should these guys be careful of to make sure they don't sort of like, is there an end point to this franchise that they should be looking at? Should they be setting that? Should they just be like flying by the seat of their pants and doing something? Like, Kate, you mentioned that like Damien kind of had this mapped out, or at least a huge chunk of it of what he wanted to do. I'm sure that has gotten expanded maybe since you shot the scene on Terrifier 2, because I think like he can see like, okay, I can get more money, I can get a bigger release. Like this is something that's rolling now, and good for him for sticking to his guns and getting this kind of like moving along. It doesn't happen too often. I think that's why we're all collectively so excited about this franchise, is because a lot of people have tried to make new horror icons and not it's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I can start.
Yeah, let's start, Kells. I'll throw it to you. What do you think?
For sure. So personally, what I kind of hope for the franchise is I really hope that like they stick to their kind of indie feeling roots. So like I don't want to see Brad Pitt in a Terrifier movie. I don't want to see like big names in a Terrifier movie.
Right.
I like kind of like foreign horror film rules where like when I'm watching a movie, I don't recognize the person in it. So I'm that much more invested in it. And I feel like because this film has like such strong roots in the independent film industry, that having kind of no names that are just there to have a blast and like do the job and are just there to be like, oh, this is really popular, I'm going to cash in on this. That's kind of what my hope is, to just kind of keep with that very personal, very again, like just kind of personal roots to it, to kind of make the audience feel a little more comfortable, make them feel a little bit less like it's just like a cash cow, I guess, is kind of what I'm worried about.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so that's what I'd like to see. I would love to see more gore. I mean, I'm just going to be frank. I love the gore that they have. Like, I mean, I
not
love
enough.
I'm not saying that there's not enough. I just would like to see a continuation of that. I'm not saying like more in excess of. I'm just saying continuation of that. I'll say.
Okay.
You know, I'll give them that. So I think that with the big budget, I think that it would be really beneficial to, just kind of do what he does best with those gore effects. Get George Miller's wife to edit, maybe, because she does a really good job on those movies. Just saying.
Because George Miller's wife edited Mad Max Fury
Road.
Fury
Exactly.
Road.
I would say Sally
Fury
Menke.
Road. Yeah.
I would say
Fury
Sally
Road,
Menke,
yeah.
but she's
Fury Road.
unfortunately passed on. It's just Quentin Tarantino's editor, of course. But you know, just get her to maybe edit in and then pop in and make some cuts. I think that would be really beneficial. But yeah, I just want to see him continuing to do more of what he loves, what he does best, and just having a blast with all the people that he loves working with. Because it just seems like you can kind of see them having so much fun while they're working on it. And Kate, you kind of spoke to that.
I have video of it.
Exactly. You spoke to the incredible positive experience of that experience and kind of how that had such a wonderful community behind it. And I just really hope that he continues with that community and doesn't just like let too much corrupt it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think he will. I suspect that Damien knows the end of the story. I think that he should make movies about art until the story is over.
Yes.
I think if he has it in his head where the story's going to end, he should parcel that out until it's done. Yeah. I appreciate any type of even TV series where they, even season 2 or season 3, where they're like, we've told the story.
Yeah.
If we go further, we're done. Yeah. We had a good thing. We don't have any more to go forward. And I suspect that that's what's going to happen.
Stop at Supernatural season 5 and then just...
I do think he knows the story. I do think he knows the end.
No shade.
It's you know what? It's really tricky to do that too, because
it is.
I think you do have to have an out with these franchises. I think you have to have an out with television series. Television series are notorious for like going way longer than they need to and breaking down whatever they've had left, whatever makes those IPs like whatever draws people to them. They wear out their welcome. And I think that we saw that with major horror franchises. We've seen that with various television shows over the years. But it's very hard to do. Like it's like, I think the biggest, I feel like this is going to be like the next Saw. And I don't mean any disrespect. I know people hate the Saw movies. There's a faction of people that hate the Saw movies. Well, there's a few. The thing is that they made the trilogy,
hate
right?
Everything.
Like Saw made 1, 2, and 3, and that's a really capable trilogy. It's a good set. And then they were like, yeah, but like that's the end. We've Saw spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the Saw franchise, but like, yeah, he's dead. We can't. That's it. Like the villain's dead. Like, and we got to move on. And then everyone's
we have Carrie Ews available, so let's do
but like, what if we just gave you like 12 million, and then investing 12 million, like so on a major like studio project budget, like let's say if your budget's 12 million, then depending on the film, your marketing budget's probably double that, right? So your budget's probably 24, 25 million in total. There's a couple of exceptions to the rule in that, but so you got to make that money back. But essentially, like if you're investing 25 million and making 75 just at the box office alone, and then all your other windows like Blu-ray or 4K now, streaming rights, all that stuff. I mean, it's hard to turn that down. Like it really is. And if you're the creator of the film, like, I mean, like if you're the writer, you're the director, you're the producer, you're the FX guy. Yeah, it's really hard to do that because you're always kind of thinking, well, and I know this from working with creatives, right? Because it's like, yes, they probably know where the story, like I'm sure he knew where the story was going to go when he was working with like a $250,000 budget and saying, well, if we do a good job on this one, maybe the next film will get another 250,000 and maybe we'll get another 250,000 off of that. As soon as you start putting in like millions of dollars, I'm not saying it's not going to be on the screen. Like I said, I'm not saying it's not going to be a success. But just think when you get to the point where you're like, okay, so now we have a $5 million budget and we can do 100 million.
Yeah.
So how long do we make these for? Well, it is hard to walk away from that cat. I'm not saying I've seen it on a table anywhere. This isn't me talking. I'm just saying that like, if you have an opportunity to make that kind of money, it's really hard to not start thinking like, and just from a creative point of view, being like, okay, so wait a second. So all the shit that I had in my head, like from like 10 years ago or 20 years ago that I never thought imaginable being able to film, I can do that. Like, I think it depends on how far along in the process he stays involved with it. And I think once if he kind of backs off and starts doing other projects, and maybe is just on as an executive producer or something, like if that's the way he chooses to do it, then it'll be interesting to see. Like you never know. But again, it's like, I just went to see Fast and the Furious like 83. So like in the theater the other day, and like I had a lot of fun seeing that movie. So I don't know, man.
You still want it to get like stretched too thin is the thing, right? Like you don't want it to get too lean.
It's a tough call.
Keep the magic, keep the muscle.
Like I remember like for a while, right? It's like Saw was like, it's Halloween, so you know what that means, right? Saw movie, and everyone was just like, another Saw movie, and they're like, what are you doing for Halloween? I don't know. Go see the Saw movie. Yeah, I guess so. Like, like it could write itself. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I'm really, really, really pumped for them. Like I think they've really captured something cool. And I should say, sorry. I know Kells raised the I'm going to cut you off finger. Like she's like, shut the fuck up.
I noticed.
But this is important because I don't think we spent enough time on this either. Is that I think the longevity of the franchise too. Things that I'd like to see is like, again, I think I don't want to speak for everyone on the panel, but I do feel like we kind of share this. I really want to see like Sienna's character sort of develop and stuff like that. Lauren Lavera did such a great job, like making her believable and likable and cool. One of the things that I always stress is like, if you want like strong female characters and like strong female heroines or heroes, whatever, you have to foil them with amazing villains. It's the only way. And also make them like have their own struggles and have them overcome shit and like develop them as characters. And I really got a sense on this too, that's what they were going for, which is really, really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that. One of my main criticisms of the first movie was just that I wanted Tara to live. And I wonder if now, because I just felt like she was such a great actress. She reminded me of young Nev Campbell. Shout out Nev Campbell, Guelph represent. But I would like to see her come back in some kind of capacity. I don't know if they can do that, but I just feel that would be super awesome if they could.
I feel like if Tara is like the Marion Crane of Terrifier, then like Sienna is the Wonder Woman of Terrifier, like, and especially because like Lauren Lavera does a lot of her own stunts. Like she's well trained in martial arts,
in judo and all. Yes, she is. Very much.
She's extremely talented. So I love to see that because I'm also just a huge nerd for stunt work, and I just love to see that in a strong female character, especially since I feel like the first film didn't really know kind of where it was going. Ooh, I just punched my mic. Didn't really know where it was going with his female characters in a way. So I was really happy to see that develop further in the second film. But Steve, Correa, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to see it as long as it's in Damien's hands.
Mhm.
I'd like to see it keep going because
Yeah.
here's how I see Damien.
Did you do that or did I do that?
Damien, I find him a lot like all of us. He's a fan first and foremost, and I think he knows how to put his fingers on the pulse of the horror community because, like, look what he's put out, and he loves it as well. You can tell, and so as long as he's in control, I'm there to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Kreia?
I mean, I definitely want Damien to finish telling his story, you know, get to that end point. I'm very interested in seeing what the breadcrumbs are leading to, you know, with the little girl, with Art, with Sienna. I want to see that. And then I want to see Damien take on a producer role once he's, you know, completed his story and let someone else take over. And so somebody else can take it to because you got to follow the franchise formula. You got to take it to the city and then you got to take it to space. And then you got to go back to the hood.
When are we getting Evil Dead in space?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Raimi, when are we getting an Evil Dead in space?
I'm just
Damn,
saying.
I want that. We went to LA.
Deadites in space.
We did the Leprechaun 2 and 3, right? We went to the city. Now we need to go
Jason
to space.
X.
Scream hasn't gone to space yet.
I think Amityville's gone to space now too.
I know that Hellraiser went to space.
Hellraiser went to space.
Fast and
the Furious went to space. Everything goes to space.
Yeah, Art versus Martian, Marvin the Martian.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. I'm on a big
Art
Fast and
versus
the Furious
Killer Clowns
kick
from Outer
right now.
Space. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah,
Killer
I
Clowns
know
from
it.
Outer Space versus Art.
Kelly, I'm gonna get off this. Kelly's gonna be like, "Dude, we agreed. It's a horror podcast. Why do you keep talking about Fast and the Furious?" Listen, I'm just telling you, Jason Momoa. Yeah, it's La Familia. So, okay. Well, I mean, I think that's a good. Everyone has a. Did I miss anyone? We're good.
We're good.
Okay. Well, listen. We tried to get this under 2 hours, but you know what? Like, apparently, it's an impossibility.
Technically, we're still under 2 hours.
I know. So we got 9 minutes left, but
we did.
That's my warning shot across the bows. If anyone didn't notice, but I do want to get to what everyone's got coming up in their lives and stuff. But I just want to I just want to promote this a little bit too. Is that there is a Terrifier reunion happening at Niagara Falls Comic Con this weekend on June 9th, 10th, and 11th. They've got David Howard Thornton, who obviously plays Art the Clown, obviously Lauren Lavera, as well as Elliot Fulham, who plays her brother, and director and creator Damien Leone is also there. So all 4 of them are there. I believe that they're there all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is June 9th, 10th, and 11th. And of course, we will be there as well. There's a great lineup of horror guests, including Taylor Maine from Halloween, Kane Hodder, and Doug Bradley. And of course, Black Fawn Distro will have a booth there, and Steve McGinnis obviously will have a booth at the event. And you also created the T-shirt or one of the limited edition T-shirts that they'll be selling, featuring a whole bunch of horror icons too. So awesome, congratulations, man. I'm sure those will sell out, no problem. But just going around the horn, of course, we just like to give you guys a shout out. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Of course, we're broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and rebroadcasting on all the major streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are listening, please let us know what you think of the show. And also, oh shit, we almost forgot. We have this.
Oh yeah, we have.
Remember,
a thing.
we were like, we're gonna do this later on.
We talked about this specifically.
Okay, so we do actually have a copy on Blu-ray of Terrifier with the slipcase, brand new,
beautiful. Ooh, so
beautiful. Anyway, we're gonna give it away. So all you have to do is you have to tell us. We just at the start of the program, we told you all about this. We said that we did this. We launched 90s Night, which is myself and Kelly's new program that we launched exclusively on YouTube this past week. All you have to do is tell us in the program where I went. I went to one of the a couple of the locations. I went to 2 locations. You can tell me which location I went to. Just one of them, one of the 2. Let us know, and the first person that hits us up on, I don't know, Instagram and tells us. Socials? Let's do that. Sure. Yeah. You win a copy of Terrifier 2 on Blu-ray. We'll ship it right to your house for free. Yes. Or you can pick it up at this weekend at Niagara Falls Comic Con if you're in the area or going to the show.
Show us the screenshot of your answer.
That's right. Yeah. My answer, God damn it.
It's me.
So yes. So there's various answers. We will defer to the judges to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and of course fair and even for everyone. But yes, you just have to figure out where I went to, which shooting location, one of two that I went to, and mentioned in the 90s Night American Psycho podcast, which is now on YouTube. So anyway, before we go, cruising up to 2 hours, thanks so much for everyone for listening. We really do appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, and let's go around the horn. What do you have coming up next? Kate, maybe we'll start with you. What do you got going on? What's happening? Where can people check you out on?
Oh, wow. Well, I just did a movie, Parasite Lady, that's directed by Chris Alexander. That's a Full Moon feature. I know that's streaming on the Full Moon streaming platform. I think it's on Tubi and Prime as well now. That was a lot of fun. Otherwise, not much. It's summer, so I'll be. I'm gonna go to VHS Fest at the Mahoning in Pennsylvania this summer. I'm gonna buy some VHS. That's usually my weekends is horror movies, buying VHS.
I support this.
I just checked. Yes, Parasite Lady is available on Tubi, so make sure you go check that out.
Nice.
I'm gonna watch
Doing our research.
Absolutely.
John Correa, what do you got going on, my man?
Well, I co-host the podcast Eye on Horror with the Eye Horror Network. So we've been doing that for 5 years and still going strong. We try to keep doing every other week, release, but if life happens sometimes. But we do have an episode coming up next week where we talk about special features and where have they gone on the major releases. So if you want to hear me bitch a lot, that's a good episode for that. And then as you guys said in my intro, with Sorcery Cinema, I'm producing the Don Rickles channel. So we'll have our first never before seen uncut, recently restored live special. Because he never did a comedy special. He only did live, but his manager was smart and recorded 24 performances. So we spent months restoring that digitally. So that's coming out on July 4th. So Don Rickles channel.
That's amazing too. Don Rickles, like almost the inventor of like insult humor.
Oh, the king
one of the
of
originals, right? Yeah,
he's so good at it because he like hits you so hard. But he comes from a good place in the heart, So like you'll see him like roasting Martin Scorsese, and then like immediately just be like, "And I worked with your mother. Your mother's great. You're awesome." And just like immediately starts outpouring. He used to call out Frank Sinatra to his face in front of a crowd, like, "Oh yeah, you work with the mob, don't you, Sinatra?" And like no one else could do that.
Yeah, it's just an absolute legend. That's awesome, man. Let us know when that's up. We'll definitely check it out for sure. And hey, listen, if you need any guests on your own podcast to come over and bitch about physical media and why, by the way, Disney calling out Disney too again. This is a fourth straight podcast. No Blu-ray release of Barbarian. I can't believe it.
What the hell?
Wow. What the fuck?
Complaints.
They're having money troubles over there at Disney. They probably need some people to come over there and run it properly. But hey, Disney,
help
seriously,
we'll maybe
look at horror flicks, maybe just an idea, just a suggestion. Anyway, last but not least, Steve McGinnis, artist extraordinaire. As if we haven't plugged you enough through the show, but hey, what do you got coming up, man? Where can people reach you, and where can they check out your stuff?
Wow, you can always check out my stuff at Steve McGinnis Horror Illustration on Insta, online, Facebook. I've got NFCC this weekend. I'll be in the horror section, age 22. Then immediately after that,
it's like a gong went off.
It's like I punched my thing by accident.
Oh my!
Hey, remember how to do that? We might need that for it's a production value.
Sound effects. There
you think you're up? Hey, Damien Leone, you think you're up in your budgets? Hey, come check out the podcast, man. Got some extra
beautiful accident.
Anyway, sorry, Steve. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, after the con, I got to grind out and finish Terrifier book 3, and then basically just keep creating original stuff and working on the Harvester again, and that's it.
Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, and just before we go, tell people what is the Harvester? It's
the Harvester is a slasher. 80s kind of esque slasher I created years ago, and I have 3 graphic novels out of them. We got a script in the works, and basically he's pretty much an unstoppable machine. He's just a killing machine. Yeah.
Nice.
He's very good.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
This is all part of Steve's plan. Eventually, a movie of Art the Clown versus the Harvester, right?
Oh my goodness, that'd be great.
I would 100% watch that.
Love it.
Anyway, listen. Thanks everyone for sticking around. Really do appreciate you carving out the time out of your busy schedules to kind of do this. We love doing it just because we love horror flicks, and of course, it's made a lot easier with my co-host and my partner in crime, a tiny top hat tonight, Kells McNells. Thank you so much, Kells, for keeping me honest and keeping me on track. I couldn't have done it without you. I couldn't have done it as well without you. So I really do appreciate you being my co-pilot. So thank you. And if I could just trouble everyone, just stick around till after we go off the air. Just want to follow up on a couple of things. We'll catch up. And until next time, thanks everyone for tuning in. We really do appreciate everyone. Let me see. Oh yeah, there's a couple of things. I think this is to the whole panel. You guys rock.
Brandon.
No problem.
Also, stay tuned for more creepy cocktails with me and Ben are coming up soon. Just saying.
Nice.
Yeah, so we are going to Niagara Falls Comic Con, like I said, and last time I was in Niagara Falls, me and Kells did a special creepy cocktails episode where Kells, just before we go, just tell people what that is.
So Creepy Cocktails is a special web episode in which I create a series of specialty cocktails themed on a particular horror film or set of horror films. And then I force my guests to drink all of them with me. And then I edit the video while I'm still drunk. And it's a really good time. So keep an eye out.
I'm down.
Yeah,
there's an episode from last year, which you can check out on the Black Fawn Distro YouTube channel of us getting progressively drunker for iHorror's first intoxicated interview, and it was an absolute blast. So we had a good time.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, on that note, my name is Benner. I'm the host of Takeover Tuesday. My co-host Kells McNells, and of course our amazing panel tonight: Steve McGinnis, Kate Gabriele, and Jonathan Correa. Thank you so much, guys, for being a part of our Terrifier Hotstove From Hell. And until next time. Hey, take care of yourselves. We'll see you at Niagara Falls Comic Con, Falls Horror Fest.
See you there.
Bye.
And we'll see you around. And that does it for another episode of Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and help us spread the word about the program and our incredible guests. If you're interested in grabbing some more information about Black Fawn distribution or want to check out our film titles and merchandise, you can find us online at blackfawndistribution.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsors: Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course, Black Fawn Distribution. Just a reminder, you can always catch Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday live on Facebook, YouTube, and our other social media platforms. Or pick up one of our retransmissions on any of the major streaming platforms. Until next time, I'm your host Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we'll see you soon.